I get asked all the time, Brittany, how did you build your HR career from unpaid HR intern all the way up to executive leadership? And believe me, it's not some magical formula. It's really putting in the work and doing the things. But today I'm going to kind of peel back the curtain and let you know exactly how I did it. So if you want to grow your career, you might not be an intern right now. You could be a generalist, or you're likely a manager in an HR role, and you want to know what can you do to build into new roles, to build into new levels of your HR career. This is a video that you want to watch. So I have my notes right here to make sure that I can stay on track, and I really wanted to help you to understand where I'm coming from. So again, go get your notebook, get something to write with, and let's dive into what I'm going to talk about today. So when I started in HR, I didn't even know what HR was. So for me to be able to reach the heights I've been able to reach is nothing short of a miracle. But I also understand that I actually did it the hard way. So there were a lot of late nights. There were a lot of, gosh, frustration. There was a lot of self doubt. There was a lot of imposter syndrome. And if I don't check myself, I can easily get back into that mode today. Even today, where I am right now, leading 3 departments, I can easily feel like an imposter, because you can find yourself feeling, well, do you really deserve to be here? Is this really a place that you want to be? And if you feel that way right now, believe me, I understand how you feel. But that just means that you want to do the right things. You have a desire to grow. You have a desire to do different things, and you know that there's more waiting for you. You might not have the trust of your leaders. You might not have the trust of your senior leadership team, but you know there's more in your path. You know there's more in your future for you to do. So this is the video that I want you to kind of come back to remind yourself you're on the right path. If you have the desire to do something, there's a reason for it. God wouldn't put anything on your heart if he didn't want you to have that thing. So just find different ways to build yourself up in this way. But I want to share with you what I did to help me to grow from the bottom of the totem pole, unpaid HR intern, all the way up to executive leadership, where I'm leading 3 different departments. So the first thing that I did was I committed to perfecting my craft. And when I say commit to perfect my craft, that means being okay with understanding that there's a lot of things that you don't know. That's completely fine. The last thing that you want to do is go into every situation, every conversation, every meeting with the I have it all figured out attitude. No one's going to trust that, especially if you're relatively new, especially if you find yourself not having all the answers. Don't try to BS your way through it. Find different ways to perfect your craft. So if that means getting under the leadership of somebody else who knows more than you know, if that means tuning into me for my coaching, my mentorship, and all those things, if that means getting your certification, getting your SCP through SHRM, or your CP through SHRM, or your PHR or PHR from HRCI, whatever that means for you. For me, when I was starting out in HR, again, when I was an unpaid intern, I was working under someone else's leadership. And that was fine. And I was riding that wave for, 2 years. And then when I graduated from college and went full time, I thought I had arrived. I was working full time in my chosen field, working under the leadership of someone who was amazing. But then 4 months later, my world came crashing down. She had to leave the country to relocate with her family to Italy. And my first thought was, okay, so are you going to go visit your family, or how's that going to work? But she was like, no, I'm going to go live with my husband and my kids. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I started crying in the car, calling my mom. And some of you have already heard this story before, but I was calling my mom and I was telling her they're going to let me go. I need to start applying for jobs. I'm probably going to have to work at Geico because it's the biggest employer of our area outside of the Air Force Base. I've got to find somewhere to work. I just graduated. I just bought a car. What am I going to do? And she stopped me. She said, Brittany, has anyone said they're going to fire you? I was like, well, no. And she said, well, keep working until they do. And that was the best advice I could have gotten, because in that moment, when I felt so small, when I felt so insignificant, where I already felt like I was inexperienced, because I was inexperienced at the time, I just felt there was no way for me to get out of it. And by the grace of God, through my mom's words, I just figured out, you know what? I'm going to keep at this. There's a lot that I don't know, but I looked at it as a strength. So that even though there's a lot that I don't know, that means there's a lot for me to learn. And if there's a lot for me to learn, there's places for me to learn it from. So there weren't things like specialty credentials through SHRM, like I offer to my clients right now. There was not, that did not exist back then. So a lot of things I had to kind of piecemeal things together. And that's the reason why I have this channel. That's the reason why I have this business on the side, because I'm still working in my day job. I'm still raising 3 kids with my family. So I don't really have a lot of spare time. But that's why I do the things I'm doing right now, is because I know what it feels like to feel like you are drowning in your role and there's nothing you can do about it. So I try to use this platform, my corners of the internet, to support this segment of HR leaders, of HR departments of one, of HR department leaders of small organizations, 1, 2, and 3 departments, or 1, 2, and 3 employees, because I know it feels overwhelming, because it is overwhelming, because it's a big, big job. So what did I do? I doubled down. I decided to perfect my craft. So at the time, I was just out of college. So I didn't have a lot of lived experiences. And of course, the CEO was several generations older than I was. The leadership team, the managers, everyone was so much older than me. And at that time, I felt that I needed some other letters behind my name. So I already had my bachelor's degree, but I thought that wasn't enough. So I went back to school. I got my MBA. And then after my MBA, I got my PHR through HRCI. And then after that, I got my SHRM CP through SHRM. And looking back on it, did anyone ask me to get an MBA? No. Did anyone ask me to get my HR certifications? No, but I felt I needed it for a few different reasons. I felt that I needed it because I thought that having an MBA or getting my SHRM certifications or getting my HRCI certifications will help me to understand how to run an HR department. But boy, was I sadly mistaken. None of those things helped me to figure out how to run an HR department. It gave me a lot of information, about business, a lot of information about, in general, what is HR and the laws and this and that. And don't get me wrong, all of that was valuable, but nothing taught me how to run a department. Not a thing. I still had to learn that on my own. And so again, that's why I create the tools in the HR leadership library that I have for my clients to help you to run an HR department, because I was not able to find anything that helped me to do that. So side note on that, we could talk more about that later on. But what did I do? I decided to perfect my craft. So I took the things that I learned, because I believe in life, nothing is ever wasted. So me getting my MBA was not a waste of time. Me getting my HR certifications was not a waste of time. It all helped me to see things from beginning to end. I was able to start these programs. I was able to start these degrees while working a full-time job, while living alone, while having a social life, while being very active in my church and in my community. And I felt very accomplished in getting these things done, because I felt like if you can do this, if you can find different things that you can control in some kind of way, I always talk about controlling what you can control. It gave me the confidence and the assurity that I knew that I get back into this workplace. These are things that I might not know how to do right now, but I can figure out a way to get it done. So I was really, really proud of being able to get those things done. And so I wanted you to think about that too. Find different ways to perfect your craft. So if there's something that you don't know how to do, find ways to do it. If you don't know how to work more strategically, if you don't know how to build an HR department, if you don't know how to check and see if your department is running effectively, reach out to me. These are things that I know how to help you do. And these are things that I've done for myself. And I've done it for me. I can help you do the same thing and fast track, so you cannot have the pitfalls and the roadblocks that I had when I was in those shoes. So also, it's okay to not know the right things to do. Leaning into that is a benefit. So for me, when I was so new in my HR role, I leaned on the fact that I was still a student. And with me going into HR as a student, and then still being a student as I was in my HR career, everything was a learning opportunity for me. Even today, I'm 16 years into my HR career in this same company. I just started a new, I think it's an organizational design and change management certification in my day job. I'm continuously learning new things. So I would say perfect your craft and be thirsty, be hungry to continue to learn new things. If you are at the point now where you feel like you know everything there is to know, there's nothing more that you can learn, I have a bad feeling about your future and your career trajectory, because the more you learn, the more you're going to realize the less you know, if that makes any sense. So be okay with that. Lean into that and be thirsty and hungry for the knowledge that you don't yet have, but you can certainly get if you are intentional about going about it that way. The second thing I would say that you should do, and the second thing that I did, was I improved and I built strong workplace alliances. So under my leadership, or during my time in my current job, I've worked under 3 supervisors, but 2 different CEOs. And with each CEO I've worked with, it's been super important for me to be in alliance with what they're doing. So, first of all, if you are an HR department leader, if you are the senior most HR professional, I highly recommend that if you're not already reporting directly to the CEO, that you have some form of communication with on a regular basis with the CEO. Oftentimes, I find that when HR, the senior most HR person, is in a reporting relationship with the CEO, that just shows the company has a more vested interest in its culture, in the way its people are treated, in its processes, and understanding that decisions are made from the top. And so you have to make sure you're setting precedent in the right way. So there's just a side note on that. HR should report is most often successful when HR supports reports to the CEO. But building your relationship with your CEO is critical. If you are not in alliance with your CEO, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing for you to work through. So when it comes to that, you need to know what kind of meeting schedule do you want to be on. I recommend a weekly meeting schedule with your CEO. First of all, your CEO likely has never worked in HR before, or they don't know what HR really does outside of hire and fire. So you have to be the one to make what you do visible. You need to know how to report what you're doing, how to show the value that you're bringing, so that HR is not just seen as a cost center. If you want to put in a new initiative, or you want to do an employee referral program, or you want to do this employee development, or you want to do this employee rewards program, all these things cost money. And so you want your CEO to see that HR is a value add. And if anything, you're saving the company money and not just trying to pull from it all the time. So again, you need to build solid relationships. And that means understanding, how does your supervisor define success? How does your supervisor define what a great day or a great HR department looks like? If they even know or care what that looks like, they need to know that you are passionate. They need to know that you are educated. They need to know that you are working to continue to improve the HR department, and also the costs associated with a failing HR department, lost productivity, unengaged workforce, failing management team. All of those things are going to result from a lack of proper HR focus, a lack of proper HR processes. So you want to make sure you are, again, perfecting your craft, but making sure that you're also building alliances with your manager. So for me, one of the things I did early on with my supervisor, and it continued with every CEO that I reported with, I have a weekly standing meeting on our CEO's calendar every week. Sometimes we don't meet because I have nothing to report, or he has nothing to report, or our schedules just don't align because of different meetings and whatnot. And that's completely fine. But other than that, there's a scheduled meeting 1 hour every week to talk. Do we take the full hour every week? No, not every week, but I need to know that that I have your ear, at least for this moment of time. That way, if there's anything that major comes up, of course we can catch up on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday. But every Monday, we're gonna sit down and talk because it's important. And I find that you make time for what you find important. Think about it in life. If we find our family is important to us, we're gonna make time for that. If we're trying to lose weight, we're going to make time to make sure we're getting our meal plan together, and we're going to the grocery store to get our grocery list together, and we're doing all the things to making sure we're exercising and all that. We make time for what we value. So if you're a CEO, if your organization values HR, then making an hour a week is not going to be a big ask. So my recommendation and what worked for me is finding time to sit down with my CEO every single week, mostly again with exception, just to make sure that we're on the same page. Make sure that any decisions that I've made in that week, he's on board with, or helping him realize, okay, I think it's going to come down the pipe because of the feedback that I've been getting and this and that. In addition to your relationship with your CEO, you need solid relationships with your managers and with your employees. I've got other videos on this channel about ways to gain feedback from your employees through my version of stay interviews. I call them HR follow-ups, and also I'll link that video here for you to watch. But again, you need to build solid relationships with your managers and build solid relationships with your employees as well, because they need to see you as more than just HR. You've seen the memes, you've seen the movies, you've seen the TV shows where HR is just this big bad grim reaper who comes to fire everyone, who has no sense of humor, who is just doing some dry anti-harassment training, and who no one wants to tell a joke around. And all the videos, HR is not your friend. HR is not your friend. Neither is accounting. Neither is collections. Neither is finance. But HR is not your friend, so to speak. So you need to build relationships with your team at all levels of the organization so they can see you as a person. You are an employee as well. So building those relationships will be key. And then the third thing that I did, I set very clear goals for myself. So you don't get from unpaid intern to executive leadership in less than 15 years without a plan. Like that doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without a plan. It doesn't happen automatically or through osmosis. The things that I've accomplished are the things that I've done on purpose, and of course with God's help. So well, through God's grace, actually. So just like when I went back to school, and I got my MBA. That was an intentional act on my part. I went there because I wanted to build my own confidence. I want to show that I don't just have book knowledge from this one set of university curriculum. I have widened my breadth of knowledge. Then I got my certifications. I widened my breadth of knowledge. Then I continued to work on my job. So I widened my breadth of knowledge on employer precedents and understanding how we do things in our organization, optimizing things and fixing our processes and all that stuff. So setting together a plan is so, so important, not just for your future, but for your work. So in HR, your day, especially when you're leading a department on your own specifically, every day can look different. You might have a complete plan of what you want to accomplish when you go into work, and then that'd be completely thrown out the window when you get one phone call. And that's like your everyday life. Believe me, I understand, because it happens to me. But you have to have a plan for what you want your department to do. So if every month you don't have a plan of what has to get done that month, you're already behind. If every week you don't know what you're going to be accomplishing that week, what are your non-negotiables, you're already behind. You've got to have a plan. And when I work together with my clients, this is what I try to help you to put together. So through my Thriving in HR Planner, every week you get an email from me, a targeted email telling you, hey, this is what I think you should do. We're at the end of May. We're at the beginning of June. We're at the beginning of August. This is what you should focus on right now. This is what you need to do. Are you checking in with yourself? Are you setting your goals? Where are you with what you said you were going to do at the beginning of the month? Every week with my Thriving HR Planner, you get a target email from me to keep you on pace, because I understand how it can be to go through all the work that you do day after day, week after week, and feel like you did nothing on Friday. And that's a defeating and deflating feeling. So in the midst of that, in addition to that email, you also get a weekly affirmation, because I think it's so important to pour into yourself. You pour into other people all day. You pour into your CEO, into your leaders, into your employees, into your family, your husband, your kids. You pour into people all day long, but who pours into you? Who pours into you? So every week you get an email from me where I'm like, hey, the affirmation of this week is love surrounds me. And I tell about what love surrounds me means to me, but then you journal about what love surrounds me means to you in your weekly reflection page. So again, I just try to do these things because these are the things that help me to be more mindful, things that help me to be more aware of what I'm doing and how I'm moving in my career, so that I can not just survive, but to thrive. That's the name of this entire channel, Thriving as an HR Department of One, because you've got to get out of just survival mode. And with my help, I hope that you can find yourself doing that. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out to me. If you have connected with me in any way, you know that I love to not just serve, but to over deliver. So I'm so excited to connect with you. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below and I will circle back. But tell me in the comments below, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to working as the HR Department of One? What do you struggle with the most? I'm hopeful that I can help you with future videos, and I'd love to see what you say. Talk to you soon. Bye.